Bibles, hopefully you brought your Bibles to the Gospel of Lucas, the Gospel of Luke in chapter 5. We have prayed, we've asked the Lord to be with us and to bless our time together. And so let's get into our time together. It was a few years ago that my wife and I, Teresa and I, we have 3 children, grown up, they're all grown up, married, got their own kids. But a few years ago, we went to visit our oldest son, Gabriel, in North Carolina. And he had just gotten himself a dog. Romy was his name. And so Gabriel and I were in the kitchen at his house there. And he had put out a bowl of fresh dog food. It looked good. Well, I mean, for a dog, I mean, it looked good. And so Romy calls him in. Romy's been outside playing. And when Romy came in, my son Gabriel and I looked at each other and we go, what in the world? Romy had this old sock hanging out of his mouth. And it was, I don't know, we don't know where he dug, but he dug it up from somewhere. And it was dirty and filled with mud, filthy, and it smelled and had little bugs crawling all over it. And so my son Gabriel says, Romy, come on, here's your food. So Romy comes over to it with the sock hanging out of its mouth. And he looks at the food. And he looks at my son. And he's got this sock hanging out. And my son and I quickly realized he's facing a moral dilemma, isn't he? Because he's hanging on to this dirty sock, but he wants the food. Romy, let go of that. Let go of that sock so you can eat the good stuff. And he looks up at my son Gabriel. And he looks back at the food. Romy, come on, man. Look what you can have. Look how good that looks. You're settling for that when you can have that? And what do you think Romy did? Did he drop the sock? Or did he hold on to it? He held on to the sock and he walked out of the house. Romy, how sad. How tragic. How tragic that you would be unwilling to let go of something that you feel secure with, something that makes you feel good, but it's holding you back from something better. Now, it doesn't take much to put the spiritual illustration to it. Because as I sat there and I watched Romy go through this dilemma, I thought, man, oh man, that's me. How often it is that I'm hanging on to something that I think that I can't live without. I'm hanging on to something that I think I must have. And the Lord says, I got something better. I've entitled our short time together, The Blessing of Letting Go. My wife and I have been praying for you. We have, and at the risk of sounding super spiritual, we really have. We really have. We've been praying for that one woman that's here, that one man that's here, maybe more. That one youngster, that one teenager that's here that's in a battle. You're wrestling with God because you sense it in your spirit, God calling you to something greater, something more meaningful, something deeper out of obedience, but you're unwilling out of fear, out of security. I don't know. Well, Luke chapter 5 is about a miracle. Actually, it's a series of miracles. And then what I want to do is I want to start kind of in a different kind of way. We're going to look at Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. But what I want to do is I want to go to where the miracle actually takes place. It's in verse 6. If you look there with me in verse 6 in Luke chapter 5, in verse 6, we read, when they had done this, they enclosed a large number of fish, and the nets were breaking, a whole lot of fish. They signaled to their partners in the other boats to come and help them, and they came and filled both of the boats so that they began to sink. What a miracle! They've hit the fish lottery. They've hit the fish home run. This is what you dream of. This is what you pray about. This is what you hope for. This kind of catch doesn't happen every day. This is something that's beyond human ability. This is beyond human training. This is beyond human understanding. There was divine intervention. This is a miracle that has taken place. Okay, fine, miracle. But what did it take? What had to be let go of in order to get to verse 5, to verse 6 and 7? So we pick it up in chapter 5, beginning in verse 1, and hopefully what we will do is that we will see some of the decisions that were made. Let go of this. Let go of that. Trust God with this. That the end result was an amazing work that God did. Look at first 3 verses in chapter 5. On one occasion, while the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, which is the Sea of Galilee, up in the Galilee region. And he saw 2 boats by the lake. But the fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. Getting into one of the boats, which was Simon's, he asked him to put out a little from the land. He sat down and he taught the people from the boat. The scene is this. Jesus is standing on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. My wife and I have had the extreme privilege of being there up in the northern Galilee region, the Sea of Galilee. It's beautiful, beautiful up there. And he's standing by the shore there, and the people, he's teaching the crowd. He has a general, unspecific message for any one person. It's for everybody. And as he's teaching the word, people are beginning to press in against him so that his sandals are starting to get wet. He's starting to step back because the people are pressing in. And as he looks over, he sees 2 boats. And he goes over to one of the boats and he gets into the boat. And it happens to be Simon Peter's boat. And as he gets into the boat, he says to Simon Peter, he asks him a question. He doesn't push him. He doesn't force him. He doesn't twist his arm. He asks him, Simon, can you do me a favor? Can you push out into the water a little bit from the land? It's a request. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a day, any day. It could have been Monday afternoon. Could have been Wednesday afternoon. It just any day, no particular warning that said to Peter, hey, Peter, listen, on Friday afternoon, here's what's going to happen. No, just, we'll see from verses 4 and 5. Peter's been fishing all night long. Been on the graveyard shift. He's been throwing those nets out in the water repeatedly, time and time again, and dragging the nets through the water. I mean, they're heavy, pulling them in and then throwing them back out again. And he's exhausted. He is wiped out. He's beat. And Jesus intervenes in his life, and he asks him for something. He asks him for 2 things. Can I use your boat? I want to use something that belongs to you, but something that I think most of us kind of find a challenge with every now and then. Can you give me your time, Peter? Can you give me some time? I want you to put out a little bit. And now it tells us that Jesus got in the boat, but it doesn't tell us what Peter did. It doesn't tell us if this is the boat and Jesus is facing that way and the boat is going this way. It doesn't tell us that Peter got in the water up to his waist and he's holding the boat steady for Jesus. It doesn't tell us that. In my opinion, I think, because of what we see in the next verse, Peter gets in the boat back towards the back, and he's watching the back of Jesus' head as Jesus continues to preach. And I wonder what Peter's thinking. What am I doing here? I'm tired, man. What do you think, after working all night and having caught nothing, what do you think is on Peter's mind? If you're Peter and you've been working all night long and it's been frustrating and there's been no victory, no result, and you're sitting there, what do you think is going through Peter's mind? I want to go home. I'm going to have some breakfast, have some eggs and bacon. Oh, not bacon. Peter wouldn't be having bacon. No. The eggs and some salsa or something. But Jesus is asking him for some time. I don't know if you like to take notes. I don't know if you like to mark up your Bible. But for verses 1 through 3, I wrote this down. Blessings come when we're willing to let go and trust the Lord. Peter was willing to let go of what he wanted to do. He's human. I'm sure that there'd be no argument when I say, man, he'd like to go home. He's got a bed waiting for him. He's got food waiting for him. But he let go of something. What is it that you're willing to let go of? It's Psalm 31 verse 5 where King David says, Lord, my time is in your hands. Are you okay with that? If the Lord comes and says to you, I want you to give me some time. I want you to invest your time into this area of life over here. I want you to invest your time into this area of ministry over here. I want you to invest your time into this. You don't understand. Lord, you know how busy I am? Can I remind us, myself included, can I remind us that the only reason we woke up this morning is because there's a God in heaven? Can I remind us of that? Can I remind us, listen, can I remind us that the only reason that your lungs are inhaling and exhaling is because there's a God in heaven? Not because you don't pay attention to that. You don't go, okay, inhale. Okay, exhale. Inhale. No, there's a God in heaven that just keeps it going for you. Lord, but I don't have time for you. I'm busy. Some of us, not all of us, man, I bet you in a church like this, with the work that the Lord is doing here, there's so many of you that are busily serving the Lord. But some of us, that's my time. I'm off. My only day off, the only time I get to myself. And so sometimes in order to see a miracle, blessings come when we are, and here's the word, willing to let go and trust the Lord with our time. And so now, Jesus is finished with the general message. It hasn't been geared and directed towards one individual, but something's going to change now. Look with me at verse 4. In verse 4. When Jesus had finished speaking, now he looks at Simon. Simon, put out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch. Simon answered, Master, we've toiled all night long, and we've took nothing, but at your word, I will let down the nets. Oh, there's so much here. There's so much. Peter is sitting there in the back of the boat, listening, maybe catching a few winks in between. During the sermon, nodding off just a little bit. Unlike you never do that. But Simon, and then all of a sudden he hears his name. Simon, what? Simon, I want you to take your boat and I want you to go out into the deep and let your nets down for a catch. Now remember, what did Jesus do for a living, physically speaking? What did he do for a living? Simon has to work through a whole lot of challenges in these two verses right here. Because the first challenge is he has a carpenter telling him, he's the master fisherman. He's a journeyman fisherman. And he's got a carpenter telling him, the master fisherman, when to fish and where to fish. He's got to work through that when it could be that Peter wants to look at Jesus and go, Jesus, I appreciate your heart. I really do. But do me a favor. Why don't you stick to preaching and let me do the fishing? Because Peter knows one thing. You do not fish in the deep in the daytime. The Sea of Galilee, 7 miles wide, 13 miles long, and about 145 feet deep at the deepest part. Jesus just told Peter, go into the deep and let's go fishing. When you fish with nets, you don't have a line that's going to go 140 feet. You have nets. And Peter knows that historically, the fish at nighttime, they wake up, they leave the deep, and they travel to the shallower end of the Sea of Galilee where they feed on other little fish. And so because you fish with nets, you look for that more shallow end of the lake because you know with the net you can't fish that deep, and that's where the fish are. So Jesus is literally telling Peter to do something that nobody does. People don't fish in the daytime. People don't fish in the daytime in the deep. And Peter is looking at Jesus going, wait, hold on. Wait, I don't understand. You're asking me to do something that's not logical. You're asking me to do something that doesn't make sense to me in my human mind. I don't understand. Why would you ask me to do this? Peter's got to work through some things. He's got some obstacles to work through. He's got a financial obstacle to work through. Why do I say that? There's people that are out there. Remember, Jesus just finished teaching. And it could be that there's people out there that Peter sells fish to. A financial connection. That these people might look at Peter going out into the deep in the middle of the day and say, I don't want to be connected to somebody that's doing something so odd. Peter's got an emotional obstacle to work through. I'm scared. If I let go and I trust what Jesus is asking me to do, what if it doesn't work out? You ever said that? Sometimes when it comes to our obedience with our finances, and we know that the Lord's calling us to be generous with our finances. But what if it doesn't work out? I'm afraid. Peter's got to work through an emotional obstacle. He's got to work through a mental obstacle. It doesn't make sense. The little ducks don't line up in my brain. And he's got to deal with the sociological obstacle. What do I mean? Those are his friends out there. He grew up with these people. They know him. He's been fishing with all these people. They're journeyman fishermen, and those people that know him are going to see him get in his boat, go out into the deep in the middle of the day, and they're going to say, he's lost his mind. They're going to ridicule him. He's got to live with that. He's got to work through that. Lord, please, why? Why me? Why didn't you get James? Why don't you get in James' boat? Why didn't you get in John's boat? Why me? What did I do wrong? I just wanted to go home and eat my eggs and salsa. That's all I wanted to do, Lord. Sometimes it's like that. But here's the one thing. Jesus didn't tell Peter about verses 6 and 7. He didn't tell him that. He didn't say, listen, Peter, do me a favor. I know that you're worried it's not going to work out. I know that you're worried about what people are going to think. I know that you're worried that if you let go, that financially it might be an impact to you. I know that all of that, but it's going to be okay because see, verse 6 and verse 7 is coming right after verse 5. And in verse 6 and verse 7, there's going to be so many fish that you're going to think the boats are going to sink. Didn't say that. Let's go out to the deep and let's go fishing. That's all he said. Here's what I wrote. I don't know if you like to write things down, but here's what I wrote. Blessings come when we trust, even though we may lack understanding. I don't understand. Why would the Lord want me to do that? Why would the Lord want me to go there? I don't get it. I'm not trained for that. I'm not equipped for that. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. And what we do immediately is we look at our ability. And if we feel like we can do it, oh man, yeah, I'm going to do it. God's called me to do it. But if God calls us to do something that we feel like we're not the best, we're not trained, we're not experienced, oh no. We're afraid. And so Peter says, here's faith. Here's faith. There are some words biblical words that are difficult for me to sometimes explain. Faith is one of them. Now I know Hebrews 11:1, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. I know that. But if I see faith in action, I can look at it and I can say, you see that? You see what he just did? That's what I'm talking about. That's faith. Here's what Peter does. Master, we've been fishing all night long and we haven't caught anything. Nevertheless, because you say so, let's go fishing. Yeah, Peter, that's it. You just let go. In that action, in those words, you just let go. You just trusted the Lord. Trust in the Lord in all your ways. Don't lean, Peter, on your own understanding, but just let go. Romy, let it go. Let it go. There's something better. So he goes out. Verses 6 and 7 happen. It was May of 1985. May of 1985. My wife and I had built 2 homes. We were going to be builders. We gave our life to Jesus December 10th, 1978. We'd already been Christians. Built a couple of homes, had a half an acre by the Las Vegas Strip. We're going to build our dream home. We're going to make a bunch of money. I'm a builder. I'm working for a company 40 hours a week, but doing this on the side because we're going to be builders. I bought a 16-foot, 2-ton flatbed truck. I bought a 1-ton flatbed truck because I'm going to be a builder. And I'm going to do what I love to do. I got my plans. I'm teaching the Spanish Bible study on Thursday nights at Calvary Chapel, Las Vegas. 10 people, 15 people somewhere. But I never worked at a church. I never dreamed of working at a church. That wasn't what I dreamed of. It's not what I desired. I'm going to be a builder. May of 1985, Bob Coy, that was one of the pastors at Calvary Chapel, Las Vegas, about 3,000 people, comes by and he was the overseer of the Spanish ministry. He said, hey, listen, I just want to let you know that my wife and I are going to be moving, and so now if you need something for the Spanish ministry, now you got to talk to this other pastor. Moving. Out of the 10 pastors, whatever it was, Bob was the one that I had had lunch with once or twice. That's it. That's all I knew about him. He's funny. He's a great guy. We had lunch, and plus he paid for lunch. So that was always a cool thing. So I go, you're moving? Where are you going? Going to Florida. Florida. Now, I was not a really good student in high school, but I knew where Florida was. But I didn't do good. I remember at Rancho High School, where I went to school in Las Vegas, there was these, we all knew, there was the A and B students, and they all hung out together. And then there were the C and D students, and they all hung out together. And then they were all my friends. And we all hung out together. So when he said they're going to Florida, I said, where? Where in Florida? He said, we're going to Fort Lauderdale. And I kid you not, I said to him, where's that? Never heard of it. Born in Mexico, raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. My wife was born in Henderson, right outside of Vegas. Raised in Las Vegas, went from first grade, graduated from high school, all in Las Vegas, Nevada. The furthest east we'd ever gone was Flagstaff, Arizona. We went to a different world, man. We went to Flagstaff, Arizona. Couldn't believe it. Never heard of Fort Lauderdale. All right, Bob, we'll pray for you. I'm going to be a builder. 2 weeks later, they were leaving in 2 months. 2 weeks later, I wake up, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning. You live in Las Vegas, and you pour concrete for a living. You got to get up early in the summertime. Wake up in the morning, I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, and I ask myself a question. Why has he got to go to Florida? There's a bunch of lost people here in Vegas. And I remember I laughed. And I answered the question, I go, what do I care? None of my business. I never even heard of Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to be a builder. And besides, that night that he told me 2 weeks earlier that they was going to Florida, on the way home, we get into our 1978 Chevelle Malibu with no air conditioning in July. And I say to my wife, did you talk to Bob? She goes, yeah, he said they're going to Florida. And I said to her, I wonder how far that is. And she goes, don't even think about it. So I knew, so when I'm thinking Florida, and after that morning when that thought hit me, it just bit me. Florida. Why Florida? Why is he going to Florida? And I can't get it out of my mind. And why Florida? And why Florida? But I knew that my wife didn't want it, and so I'm going to tell her, and she's going to say no, and get back to my life. And so I came home one day, and I said, hey, babe, what do you think about moving? She was moving. And go where? I said, I went like this. I go, Florida? She says, what? What do you think about going with Bob Coy to Florida to help him start the church? And she had been standing in front of the mirror doing this with the makeup thing. And then she'd switch hands and go like this. And when I said, go to Florida and help Bob start a church, she goes, and she looks at me and she said, why not? Wait, no, wrong answer. No. You're supposed to say no, absolutely not, so I can get back to my life, my plans of being a builder. 2 families are going with them. They'd announced that Bob was going to Florida, and one guy is a worship leader, songwriter, recording artist, whatever. He's going. That made sense to me. He's a worship leader. You're starting a church? Absolutely. Church, children's ministry, that family. Yep, you're going with Bob. That makes sense to me. I'm a concrete finisher. I never saw the connection. So finally, okay, Bob, we're going. What should I do? Should I call these other 2 families and see renting a truck so we can put all our stuff together? And he said, well, that's some bad news for you. What? The other 2 families are not going. Wait a minute. What? Well, then who's going? Well, me and my wife, and you and Teresa, and your 3 kids. And by the way, Fidel, I heard that you know 2 chords on the guitar. You're going to be the worship leader. Wait. No. No, when you say I know 2 chords, you're right. I know 2 chords. He goes, well, it's going to take us about 6 days to get to Florida. You got 6 days to learn more chords. So we get to Florida. We left Saturday, July 20th, 1985. 24-foot U-Haul truck pulling Bob's Datsun 280Z. And we're following behind in our 78 Chevelle Malibu with no air conditioning. And a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old in diapers. And Bob and Diane had been married for 6 months. And we're going, what? And folks, we get on Interstate 10 and we're heading east. And the whole time I'm crying, I'm going, what am I doing? I'm going to a place, and the guy, the Martin Harris, the company I worked for, when I left Las Vegas, I told Pat Warren, our superintendent, and he goes, you're going where? I'm going to Florida. Going to Florida? Have you ever been to Florida? I said, no. He goes, I used to live in Florida. You know what there's in Florida? What is there in Florida? He goes, there's these thing called palmetto bugs that are like this big. They pick you up and they carry you. It took us 3 days to cross Texas. Every 100 miles, we had to fill up the tank in the U-Haul truck. And the whole time, I'm literally crying, going, I'm a concrete finisher. What do I know about starting a church? I've never worked at a church. I wanted to be a builder. God, did I do something wrong? Are you punishing me? We get to Florida in July 25th of 1985, and a couple days later, Bob goes, I found a place for us to have church. You really? Where? We're meeting at Fairchild's Funeral Home. What? A funeral home? We're meeting, who's going to go to a church in a funeral home? So Bob had long hair, I had long hair. My wife used to perm the back of my hair. So I got this mullet with a perm, and Bob's got long hair, and here we are meeting in a funeral home, and it's like a comedy act. And so the first service, I'm standing up there, and I learned one song. I knew one song. Humble thyself in the sight of the Lord. I did that song for 20 minutes, folks. 20 minutes, one song. And then inside the little chapel there at Fairchild's Funeral Home, I'm standing there right here, and over here there was this wall, a big long wall all the way back to the back. And on the other side of the wall was where they kept all the coffins over here on the other side. And so back over here is where the children's ministry were, where all the coffins were. And so our 3 kids are over there, and the 2 people that came that service, they had 2 kids. So their 2 kids and our 3 kids, the 5 kids, are playing hide and go seek in between all the coffins over there. And I'm standing over here going, humble thyself in the sight of the Lord, with my mullet. And so when I was done, the 4 people were staring at me. That's it. That's all I know. So I knew what the worship leader back in Las Vegas, I knew what he did. So I thought, I'll do the same. So I look at the 4 people and go, why don't you stand up and say hello to somebody that's here for the first time? Did I just say that? And they go, we're all here for the first time. "25 years later, we buy 77 acres, the biggest purchase in Broward County. We have 30,000 people coming to church between the main campus and the 9 other locations. We had 920 full-time paid staff working at the church. We started a school that ended up being the biggest school from kindergarten to 12th grade, 2,500 students, the biggest school in South Florida. But the Lord never said anything about that. He didn't say we were going to have 30,000 people. He didn't say that I was going to be the number 2 man to the biggest church in the state of Florida, the number 7, the 7th largest church in the country. He never said anything. You know what he said? Will you go to Florida? That's it. We just go to Florida. Now, why do I say that? Why do I say that? So that you can look at me and think that I'm somebody special? I say that so that you can realize God can do anything with anybody that he wants. All you got to do is just be available. That's it. Barely graduated from high school, never been to seminary, never been to Bible college. I drove by a college one time back in Las Vegas. We just said, I'll do it. I've never done that. Listen, whenever you say I've never done that, don't put a period at the end of that sentence. Put a comma. I've never done that, comma, yet. Haven't done that yet. Worship leader, you wanted me to be a worship leader? I've never done that yet. You want me to go to Florida? Never done that yet. So I say that not for you to look at us and like, wow, you're really something special. No, I fought God the whole way. But I was able to have enough courage to let go and to let him have his way. Let's finish up. We saw verse 6 and 7. For verses 6 and 7, I wrote this. Let go and do whatever it is that he's commanded, because remember, it says after they had done this. So they were obedient. They did what the Lord commanded them to do. Look at verses 8. Look at verse 8. But when Simon Peter saw it, verses 6 and 7, everybody's celebrating. Look at all the fish. Going to sing, chest bumping each other, high-fiving each other, doing a disco jig around the fish because there's such a great miracle. And Peter, in verse 8, he's not involved in that. When Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees and he said, depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. For he and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of fish that they had taken, and so also were James and John, son of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you're going to be catching men. And when they had brought their boats to land, they left everything and followed him. They're celebrating. They're laughing, hooping and hollering. Fish jumping everywhere. And it seems as though Peter is standing there and taking all this in. And it seems as though he probably looked over at Jesus. And I think he's trying to process this whole thing because they're all celebrating. And then in verse 8 it says, but Peter's like, what just happened here? All I did was let go. All I did was just choose to believe. It made no sense. He said, go, and I said, okay. And I picture Peter looking over at Jesus, and I picture Jesus looking at Peter, and Jesus just smiling. You did good, Peter. You let go. You trusted me. And he trusted him. And his decision to trust the Lord impacted others because others are joining in. And James and John, his partners, they're all celebrating. Why? Because one man decided, I'll let go, I'll trust in the Lord. And it flowed into the lives of other people. But then Jesus, when Peter fell at the knees of Jesus and he said, depart from me, Jesus. I'm a sinful man. I don't deserve you, Jesus. Just get out of my boat. You don't know what I've done. You don't know who I am. You don't want to be seen with me. It's going to be bad for your ministry, Jesus, if people see you with me. And I'm fascinated and I'm blessed beyond measure that Jesus didn't say to Peter, you're right. You ain't no good. You're right, I shouldn't even be in the boat with you. He didn't say that. You think Jesus didn't know that? You think when Peter is saying, depart from me, I'm a sinful man. What? I didn't know that. He knew that. And he knew that the future would come, that he would deny. He knew all of that. And he said, but Peter, I got plans for you. You, Peter. The one that says you don't deserve it. The one that says that you're worthless. The one that says that you're not good enough. You, Peter, I got plans for you. I want to use you. And so they bring their boats to the shore. And the fish are still jumping in the boats. And it says that they left everything. They left everything. What did they leave? And what does it mean for you? What does it mean for me? They left the nets and they left the fish. Because you see, there came a time in their life, and maybe in your life, the one that we've been praying for, when you not only let your nets down, but you lay your nets down. Because what did the fish and what did the nets represent? It represented their human provision. This is what keeps us alive. It represented their future. This is my future right here. I've scored. I've made it big. It represented their security. You see, the more fish I have, the better I feel, the more secure I feel. And it represented their identity. This is who I am. I'm a big-time fisherman. And so they not only let their nets down, but they laid their nets down. And now they're looking at Jesus and saying, Jesus, from now on, you're our provision. From now on, Jesus, you're my future. From now on, Jesus, I'm letting go of the things of this world, and you're my security. From now on, Jesus, I find my identity in you. Listen, we're on the home stretch. We're done. But I leave you with this thought. Time is short. And you don't want to be putting off till tomorrow what you need to let go of today. James chapter 4, James says, come now. Those of you that say, today or tomorrow we'll go to such and such a city. We'll stay there for a year. We'll trade. We'll make a profit. And then he says this, yet you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. What's your life? It's like a vapor, like a mist. It's here 1 minute, and then it vanishes. You don't know what tomorrow holds, folks. You don't know what phone call you're going to get tomorrow. You don't know that your boss is not going to call you into the office tomorrow and give you a pink paper. You don't know that. You don't know what that doctor is going to say to you about your test tomorrow. I've been there. I know those thoughts. I know those emotions. So don't put it off. Don't do what so many of us do. Procrastinate. Don't you love that word? And even some of us are pros. Procrastinate. We're pros. We're pros at it. I leave you with this. The story is told of a man that he's at his desk. And as he opens the drawer of his desk, he finds a receipt. It's for a pair of shoes that he took to the shoe repair shop 5 years ago. And he never went to pick them up. Never did. So he's looking at this receipt and thinking, I wonder if the guy still has these shoes. Nah, there's no way. But I got to go find out. So he goes to the shoe repair shop where he had taken them. And he walks in all embarrassed. And he goes, hey, listen, I was here 5 years ago. And I brought these pair of shoes. Here's the receipt. And I know that you don't have them, but I just had to come and find out. And the guy behind the counter goes, I don't know. Let me go check. Give me the receipt. He gives him the receipt. The guy goes back in the back, closes the curtains. He comes back out empty-handed. The owner of the shoes says, I knew it. I knew that you wouldn't have them. And the shoe repair guy says, oh, no. I have them. They'll be ready next Thursday. Procrastination. Let go of that anger, folks. Let go of that bitterness. Okay, so they hurt you. Let go of it. Pick your battles. Okay, so they rejected you. They turned you down. Okay, live to fight another day. Listen, if you wake up tomorrow, you know what that means? God's not done with you. If you wake up tomorrow, you got nothing to worry about. And listen to this. If you don't wake up tomorrow, guess what? You ain't got nothing to worry about. Amen? Thank you, Lord, for... Gracias. Gracias, Señor. Gracias, Señor. Thank you for this day that we can spend together. Lord, forgive us for doubting you. Forgive us for holding on when we should be letting go. Forgive us for the fear that we have. Forgive us for the doubts that we have. You're so worthy to be trusted. You're so faithful. You're so good. And Lord, if there's one person here that is yet to give their life to you, we pray for them. We pray that today you would touch that heart and that you would change that life forever. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it.